Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I let you know what I thought about them, and we always start with the pick of the week. But first, let me remind you that PCP can save you money at Dynamic Forces. That's right, just visit dynamicforces.com, enter Robbie at your cart, and save 10%. And now it's time for the pick of the week, and this week's pick of the week is Batman the Imposter, issue number 1. Y'all, I didn't really necessarily want to pick this one. It's yet another DC Black Label book, yet another Batman book, yet another prestige-sized, overstuffed, higher-priced Batman books. But it was awesome, and it was the best thing I read this week. There's some solid books out this week, but this one took the cake. This is the type of Batman story that I really get into. Dark, gritty, grounded, right? This is written by Mattson Tomlin, who is one of the screenwriters on the upcoming Batman movie with Robert Pattinson, so that's neat, I guess. But you get the artwork by Andrea Sorrentino and Jordi Belair. The artwork in this book is beautiful. It is gorgeous. So it's an Elseworlds type tale. It's a Batman that I would be led to believe easily is very similar in motivation and in aspiration and realization as like Robert Pattinson's Batman's going to be. But that all aside, this was just a really great book about a young Batman who he's still early in his career, and now it's like the city's elite, like the wealthy of Gotham. They're tired of Batman messing up their stuff, and so they basically frame him. They get somebody to pretend that they're Batman, and he's killing people on TV. And so now it's this whole thing. So it's a story we've seen before, but the way it's handled and the execution, not just with the artwork, but with the writing as well. But y'all, the artwork is amazing. The coloring, it's moody, it's atmospheric, it's all those buzzwords that I want. I love the composition. I love the grit and grounded nature of this book. It really supremely impressed me, and I was not looking forward to it. Yet another Batman book. And it does help add an element of interest to me that it's written by the writer of the upcoming Batman movie, because I don't think it's too hard of a stretch. Like, this isn't set in that world, but you can definitely understand the idea space, the head space that's being given to this version of Bruce Wayne, and I'm super stoked for it. So Batman the Imposter, issue number 1, it's the pick of the week. And then we go from that to Batman the Audio Adventures. It's a special 80-page giant, and this one just didn't do it for me. This one was overstuffed and overpriced. It's $10 for 80 pages, and ultimately it didn't really do anything for me. It felt like a chore to get through, and it was rather boring for me personally. So this is based on some audio adventures, like a audio drama podcast type thing that's available on HBO Max. I'm not super familiar with that, but I feel like they just kind of took the script for that and then attached it to some artwork, and it just doesn't feel like it has any finesse or any kind of flair, and it doesn't really work for me at all. This was a big bust this week. I would not recommend spending $10 on that one. Then we got The Joker, issue number 8. This book is continuing to lose me. This one piqued my interest just a little bit because it gives us the full-on origin of Vengeance, this new iteration of Bane, like a woman Bane or something, but that was interesting enough. But other than that, it's just been like, okay, we get the premise. Gordon is out to try to hunt down the Joker and possibly kill him. And we're just still there, and it doesn't feel like the story's moving forward. And it's like, here we are, issue 8, we're getting the origin of this character, but things are just kind of coming out of nowhere, being thrown around. I don't know. I was really high on this book at first, but it's just been kind of meandering around for me, and right now it's just not super exciting, though this one was interesting enough to see the origin of Vengeance. But all in all, Jokers lose me. Superman and the Authority, issue number 4. This is the final issue of the Grant Morrison run. Mikhail Han and Jordi Belair on the artwork. Love the artwork, clean, pristine, and super sleek and sophisticated and cool, right? The story is I liked it. It's very tongue-in-cheek. It's very out there. It's very Morrison-y at times, and I appreciated it, and I really liked it. I really like what Morrison was saying about the theme of of like the old and the new generation and the differences, but the similarities and how we should work together. And what would Superman do when he's being confronted by a battle of generations or something like that, right? But the odd, quirky thing about this in particular is that DC is choosing to spin this out into saying it's continuity, right? And that it says to be continued in the pages of Action Comics, where, you know, we know Superman's off to Warworld, and he's got his own version of the Authority now, which is this version of the Authority. But this is clearly not the Superman from the main DC book. And I understand we're in an omniverse, but this is a Superman who's like older, losing his powers, going to Warworld for a bit of a different reason, with a different goodbye, and he was talking in the beginning of this whole run to JFK. So honestly, obviously, this was meant to be part of that 5G initiative. Things have changed. It's like nobody changed anything. They're just like, just run it. Who's gonna notice? That's weird. I like the book. If you're not a super hardcore Morrison fan, I don't know how much you're gonna like the ending of this book, but it's a very weird stretch that they're twisting that into the current story in Action Comics. Justice League Last Ride, issue number 6, the penultimate issue. We got one more after this one. Big revelations, the big plan, what's going on. So the Justice League, they got Lobo. This is an Elseworlds tale, and it's a Justice League that's been decimated and broken apart because Martian Manhunter died in one of their final battles against Darkseid, and now years later they have to come back together to give Lobo a safe trip to Apocalypse for some reason, and the reason gets revealed here, and it was big, and it was epic, and it was boisterous. It was also Epic. Epic is a dude that stands over there sometimes and just watches me, but what's up, Epic? Anyway, Justice League Last Ride, issue number 6. I had a lot of fun with this one. I love how Chip Zdarsky can give a very human, grounded tale involving the Justice League and their friendships and their loyalties to each other, but at the same time give us this really explosive action. That's very much what I'm looking for when I read Justice League comics. Then we got Wonder Woman 780. Wonder Woman's finally returning. She sacrificed herself at the end of Death Metal. She went up into the sphere of the gods. She was bouncing around the afterlife. That story's over. I felt like that kind of went a bit too long. And the return here just kind of falls flat for me. They try to touch all the bases. Oh, she shows up meets the Justice League again. She goes to Themyscira. She goes to meet Artemis. Like all these reactions from people in the world of Wonder Woman, but it just kind of falls flat. It doesn't feel like it has an impact. There's even some moments where it's just like, oh, Diana, you're back. What's up? Chilling. We've been playing games and stuff. I don't know. So it didn't really have the impact of the Diana. They think that she's dead, So I don't know. It just didn't quite capture the emotional tone that I was wanting or expecting. I Am Batman, issue number 2. We already got a new artist on the book. It's not Oliver Coipel. It's already off the book. So we got a different artist in issue number 2. So that slows down the dynamic nature of some of those action scenes. Now, they're still placed in there, and they're placed in there well structurally by John Ridley, but you need some really poppin', snazzy artwork to make this kind of story really work, because the story is kind of, I don't know, it's just not the most exciting. Jace Fox hasn't had that much development yet, and I still don't feel like we're getting a lot of development on that character with his journey. It just feels like he's Batman now, we're just going to run with it. And I don't know, this one just kind of fell flat for me. I think you really need a top-notch, super kinetic artist to really make that story pop, because otherwise the story itself isn't doing too much for me. Batman Urban Legends, issue number 8. I almost didn't read this book. Then I noticed it's got a story by Dan Waters. Dan Waters, friend of the show, had to check it out. It's an Azrael story by Dan Waters. That was awesome. The main story in here is a Batwoman story. It also involving Cassandra Cain by Alyssa Wong. That story was really good. Then there's a Professor Pig story written and illustrated by Christian Ward, and that was dope. And then there was this wrap-up story. It was like a return to Future State, and it's an outsider story, and it's Brandon Thomas kind of picking up on the threads of what was going on in the previous issues of Urban Legends. I wasn't really digging on that one, but I really did like the other 3 stories. I thought they were super strong. I thought they were super cool. And the Batwoman story is kind of tied into Fear State. But that Azrael story by Dan Waters is pretty exciting. Future State, Gotham, issue number 6. Issue number 6 will be my last one. I'm just not as excited as I was. I wasn't even that much super excited to begin with reading this book, but it just, every so often there was a really good issue where the artwork felt cool and fresh and manga influenced, but right here it's feeling stiff and stagnant and stilted a little bit. And the story, I'm just not into it as much. Like with the Fear State stuff going on, like who even cares about Future State anymore? So it's just kind of boggling to me that they're doing this. And then they got a backup story in here that was pulled from something else. So the Jorge Jimenez backup story in here, we've already read. It's from some anniversary issue or some compilation or black and white or something. I don't know. But like, really? 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 You couldn't even commission a new... Batman 89, issue number 3. Sadly, that's going to be my last issue of this book. I am not liking it. I feel like we were promised a continuation of the Tim Burton vision of Batman. Like, what would have happened after Batman Returns had Tim Burton possibly come back to do the movie? We had Sam Hamm on here. It was going to be Billy D. Williams as Harvey Dent becoming Two-Face, Marlon Wayans becoming the Robin. I was interested enough to see this, but nothing about this reflects or reminds me, except for in just small, subtle, tiny little ways, of those Tim Burton movies. Yeah, it's cool to see the Max Schreck cat. It's cool to see Catwoman back. It's cool to see a couple references here and there, but to be honest, this feels like a more of a contemporary book, and especially with the themes that it's dealing with, it feels so out of context and out of place from that Batman 89 world that like, I'm not liking anything about it. Challenge of the Super Friends, issue number 7. Glad this is the final issue, because as much as I love Peter Tomasi on the Super Sons, did I say Challenge of the Super Friends? Challenge of the Super Friends is dope, man. Let's just say that. But I'm glad that this run is over, because this hasn't been the strongest story. I thought it was stronger in the beginning, but going 7 issues, dealing with this time thing that's supposed to like overlap, and the way it's structured, it kind of lost me a little bit in the last few issues. And this was a decent, satisfying enough conclusion, but this was by far for me the weaker of all the Super Sons series, though. Don't sleep on Super Sons, and if Peter Tomasi wants to do more, I'm going to read it. Blue and Gold, issue number 3. Really like this issue. Ryan Sook is off of the artwork here, but we do have local hero Cully Hamner here. So it's always nice to see Cully do some work, and this was fun, and it's continuing that fun, goofy nature of typical Booster Gold and Blue Beetle stories, or say the J.M. DeMatteis and Keith Giffen run from Justice League, that kind of flavor, that kind of vibe. And just like those runs, still having like a little bit of a flavor of like a good solid story, because, you know, Blue Beetle has been kicked off the board of directors. He's lost his interest in the company. He's flat broke. But of course, so is Booster Gold, but that's not news for him. And they're trying to start this new venture together, and that relationship, that bromance, is something that's actually got a lot of charm and a lot of heart to it, and then you wrap it up in a nice, fun, goofy story. And if anybody knows these characters, it's definitely Dan Jurgens, right? So Blue and Gold number 3, I really like that one. Titans United, issue number 2. This book feels out of continuity. I don't know if it's supposed to be, but they got the Connor Kenton here with the t-shirt. He's acting supremely out of character, very emo, not working for me. It's the team, the characters they use are obviously a reference into the Titans series. There's even, you know, hey, watch Titans on HBO Max. So I don't know. I haven't really liked this one at all. And I didn't like issue number 1, and I was like, you know what? Let me give issue number 2 a try, and nah, didn't like it. That's not for me. Somebody's like stealing the Titans' powers. Red Hood's there. That's it. Strange Adventures, issue number 12. This is the final issue of the Tom King series with amazing artwork by Doc Shaner and Mitch Gerrits. 2 artists doing 2 completely different styles, but telling one cohesive story, and it looks amazing the way it works together. That being said, this series, which I really liked until just a couple issues ago because there was a reveal, and I have a hard time disconnecting what I know about certain characters that are being portrayed in here and how they would act in certain situations. I'm having trouble reconciling that with what Tom King's trying to do here. I appreciate the theme of the story and what they're trying to say about the idea of a hero and how ambivalent that is, how it's just, it's not a very easy to pinpoint thing, and it's all based on perspective, right? It's like ambiguous, right? So like, I appreciate that, but the characters that they chose to tell the story are doing things that I don't think these characters would do in most situations. And so even though I can appreciate what I think Tom King's trying to say with the story, I think he's saying it with the wrong pieces, and it really doesn't work for me. Kind of falls flat. I don't like using the term, so I won't say character assassination. Let's jump over to Marvel. And first up, we've got the long-anticipated Immortal Hulk issue number 50. This is the final issue of the epic Al Ewing, Joe Bennett run. It's here, and I wasn't feeling it. I didn't really like this final issue. It's big. It's 80 pages. It's $10. It's got a beautiful wraparound cover by Alex Ross. But we waited 50 issues for that? Like that? That? Really? People that think that the Lord of the Rings movie has a very overly simplistic ending, like with how they just like go and just toss it and right, they literally just go and toss the ring into the volcano and it's pretty much over, right? Like if you think that's like, wow, all of that time spent for that, I want to know what you think about Immortal Hulk number 50. This has been a series to me that's a bit inconsistent. It's had moments where it's really shined bright. It's had moments where it just kind of felt boring, kind of dumb at times, and long, right? But I appreciate some of the ideas that Al Ewing's trying to talk about in this series. I really, really do. And like most of Al Ewing's work, I like the ideas, but the execution's just not there for me. There's some kind of a disconnect there. But I can't wait to see the reaction on this. I want to know what people think about it, because I think that this was a rather weak ending and that the landing was not very well stuck. Legends, Black Panther, issue number 1. I wasn't looking forward to this. Its creators, I don't know. It feels like they're just trying to kill some space because the Black Panther series by John Ridley's been delayed. Don't worry, it was on FOC this week, so it is coming. But this is an origin, a retelling of the origin of T'Challa, how he becomes the Black Panther. So it starts off with him as a kid and the murder of his father by Claw and all that kind of stuff, right? Familiar territory, told in a little bit of a different, fresher way. At first, I wasn't feeling the artwork. It didn't feel tight enough for me, but as I got through the story, I was actually into the flow of the action and the scenes, the dramatic pacing of it. I thought this was actually written pretty freaking well. So it was a nice, solid, fun retelling of T'Challa's origin, a little bit more updated. The art's not going to be for everybody. It even took me like half the issue to really kind of get into the flow of it. But Legends Black Panther was surprisingly cool. Darkhold Iron Man, this is one-shot comic, so this Darkhold event is basically, you ready for this? What if we did an event, but instead of actually doing an event, because we already got another event coming, what if we did a one-shot, and then a bunch of one-shots, and then ended it with a one-shot? And the main story is just in the one-shot, and the end one-shot, and everything else in between is just kind of filler. That's what this is. That being said, I kind of like this. So Darkhold Alpha, which I didn't really like that much, like Doctor Doom has somehow like read the Darkhold. He's unleashed Chthon. Chthon's on his way. So Scarlet Witch is trying to like magicalize some of her friends like Iron Man and Wasp and Spider-Man and Blade and whatnot. And it goes horribly wrong. They wind up getting replaced by these evil, twisted, dark horror movie versions of themselves. And so that's what these one-shots are going to be basically, is telling us that origin. So this is the origin of, like, what if David Cronenberg did Iron Man? That's what this one is. So I kind of liked it. It kind of took a bit to get to the point, but once it actually starts getting to its point, story-wise, I really liked it. It had some really cool ideas. Like I said, Cronenberg-esque, some nice body horror stuff going on there. But the artwork just wasn't the best at kind of capturing that horror tone. So this is a really cool idea for a series for one-shots for around Halloween time, but you got to have like visceral, dark, moody art to go along with it, at least in my opinion. Here's another Halloween-centric tale. It's X-Men number 4. So this is the first issue without Pepe Larraz, and I'm always worried about that, but the artwork by Javier Pina is absolutely phenomenal. Like, at first, I didn't even notice that it wasn't Pepe Larraz, and then I was like, this isn't Pepe. And then I looked, and I was like, oh, it's not, but it's actually pretty cool. So this is a nice self-contained story that kind of feels classic. It's Nightmare. Doctor Strange is dead, but apparently Nightmare didn't get to the end of Doctor Strange number 1, because he's not really dead. Anyway, so Nightmare shows up, and he just starts trying to rain chaos over the dreams and nightmares of the New York City residents while they're sleeping, including the X-Men. So I really liked it, thought it was cool, and then the way it wrapped up was kind of quick. I feel like there could have been a little bit more stakes, high stakes involved for the X-Men. I feel like they kind of defeat Nightmare rather easily here, but I did like the issue. I thought it was pretty solid. So far, 4 issues in, I'm liking this X-Men run. Amazing Spider-Man 76 is here, continuing the Spider-Man Beyond story. Ben Reilly is going to be Spider-Man now, because in the last issue, Peter gets messed up. And so they're dealing a lot with the ramifications of that and just kind of continuing it on. So it actually read fine. The artwork was solid. It didn't necessarily feel like fresh and new or anything, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was average. I thought it was decent. I thought it was fine, right? So you're taking Peter off the board. And what's going on is Ben Reilly is working for this Beyond Corporation. They're wanting to trademark Spider-Man. He's going to be Spider-Man for a while. So there's some cheesy moments in here, a little bit melodramatic, but that's par for the course sometimes with Spider-Man. But I am liking it. I thought 2 issues in, and it's decent enough. And it's just placeholder. We know that, right? We just know that. Kazar, Lord of the Jungle, or Lord of the Savage Land, issue number 2, by Zach Thompson, Herman Garcia. I really like this one. I really do. Like, the first issue was weird. So, Kazar got killed by the Katati in the Empire run. The Savage Land brought him back. He's got these new powers. He can, like, connect to the land and the animals there and things like that. And the Savage Land is being taken over by this, like, techno-organic threat or something like that. And the first one I felt like kind of tried to do, like, a suburban home life thing with the Kazars. And it didn't really work. This one, it works. Like, this one's got some cool ideas, some cerebral concepts, and the dynamic between the characters. It feels like it's fracturing. Obviously, something's going on with the son, and Shauna's there, and it's just, I like the book. I really do. I wasn't expecting to like this book so much. I do appreciate Zach Thompson's work. It's like Lonely Receiver and I Breathe the Body are 2 of my favorites for the last few years, but he's bringing that Zach Thompson twist to Kazar, and I'm kind of appreciative of that. Avengers, issue number 49. Not a bad issue of Avengers. It's fine. They're trying to... Jason Aaron and company are tying more things in together, the whole Atlantis and Russia bit, and you're starting to see how it's all being manipulated around. This has been a long run, and I applaud that, but it just doesn't feel like a lot has happened. There's been no character work, really. You don't even see many of the Avengers in these issues. So this one's dealing with the fallout of this World War Hulk. The Russians have taken She-Hulk, and they've made her their agent, and now they've sent her to wreck Atlantis and just basically start all this instability in the world and whatnot. So, I mean, it's all right. I'm excited to see where we're building up to, but honestly, Avengers hasn't been as exciting as it was when the Final Host stuff first started, and I thought it was going to be big and epic and keep getting bigger and more epic, and it kind of has let me down. Homestick Pilots, this is from Image Comics, issue number 10. This is the end of the second arc, and holy freaking cow, I have never, ever wanted to read the next issue so freaking much than this. I loved it. This is big setup. So all the characters are back in place. This is a great book. It's by Dan Waters, Casper Wingard, Aditya Bidikar. It's hard to kind of put it into words what it is, but it's about like ghosts being weaponized as like giant mechs and kaiju type things. And now you got this haunted house up and walking, and you got the government's version of the nuclear bastard. And it's just, this is all tension and build-up and a lot of really great commentary on punk rock throughout the series. In particular in here, we're getting the idea of what was it like for Joe Strummer to get old, right? And that's something that really, I'm a big Clash fan too. And so I really like this level of conversation, especially from like 18-year-old punk rockers who are about to have the fight of their life in ghost tech kaiju. Freaking awesome. There's not a book like this. I dare you to find it. Homesick Pilots number 10 was dope. 6 sidekicks of Trigger Keaton. Absolutely amazing. Issue number 5. I'm loving this book. It's quirky and it's fun and it's weird. So it's about this kind of majorly dipshit actor who had a series of successful or semi-successful TV shows, and he was like a karate star or something, and he's just complete D-bag, right? And in each show, he has a sidekick, and he mistreats these people, like, in real life. He mistreats everybody. So he winds up getting murdered. And the only people that care that he was murdered are his 6 former sidekicks, and they're somehow bound together, dealing with the trauma that he's inflicted on them, each in their own way, banding together to try to solve his murder. And this was just a nice, fun, big fight in this, like, warehouse or this set, like, versus this gang of stuntmen. It's wild, it's wonky, it's outrageous, and it's really, really fun. From Vault Comics, we have Wasted Space, issue number 24. The penultimate issue. I usually love saying the word penultimate. Not when it comes to Wasted Space. I don't want this book to end. But the end that Michael Morisi, Hayden Sherman, Jason Wording, and Jim Campbell are building to, holy freaking cow. This was an action-packed issue. It had revelations like the origins of the creator. That was really interesting. This, if you're not familiar, is Preacher in space. Preacher meets Star Wars. It is freaking awesome. It's absurd. It talks about morality and philosophy, but it does it in a really balanced way. It is quirky, it is absurd, it is raunchy, it is rambunctious, it is crude, it is rude, and it's got so much heart packed into every little nugget. To watch not just the characters in this story grow, to watch and experience not just the story evolve, but to see the evolution of Michael Morisi as a writer, to see the evolution of Hayden Sherman as an artist, because I'm going to tell you this, I really liked their work early on, but I think they are at their best level ever, for sure. Jason Wordie's coloring, holy freaking cow, it's gone from dirt and grit, which was very appropriate for the early issues, to like these big, bold, Kirby-esque type things. Oh my goodness. And Jim Campbell just rounding out that team with the lettering, doing it very delicately, handling words and action, the composition, everything in this book. Wasted Space is one of the best comic books ever. 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 I am not kidding. And I am not ready for the next issue. I don't think I'm going to make it through that one without shedding a tear, man. That book's been a constant companion for several years. Deadbox is here, issue number 2 from Vault Comics. Still a bit weird about what it's actually about. It's Mark Russell, though, being very not... He's being very obvious with his criticisms of society and his satirical work here. But I really like it. It's really tough. So the book is about a town in which there is no form of entertainment except for this one red box, dead box, get it? And this red box has movies that nobody's ever heard of, and they're all weird, and they're somehow thematically tying in to what's going on in the town. This one's about a dude who accidentally buys some purple women's pants and wears them and likes them, and he gets ostracized by society. And then they're watching this movie about training monkeys to not eat bananas. Trust me, it's weird. I don't understand where we're going, but I'm down for the ride, because I really, really just like the commentary here. I'm just here from just eating my popcorn. Just really liking that one. Engine Ward, issue number 12. This is the final issue of Engine Ward. Overall, satisfying ending. It's an ending, though, that we've seen coming for quite a while. So for me, I appreciate the Vault was trying to, let more series be expansive with 12 issues and stuff, but I think this one could have been done in probably 8, maybe. But, what do I know? I want to sit down and reread it all together in one chunk and see how it evens the flow of the story. But reading it month to month, especially with some of the delays that hit this book, it just kind of became a little bit obvious in a general direction where the story was going to go, and just feels like we're just coloring in the numbers on the way there. So it was a satisfactory ending, but it wasn't super, super exciting for me. No One Left to Fight, Volume 2, Issue number 1. Loved this book. It's from Aubrey Sitterson, Fico Ocio, Taylor Esposito, and Rachel Avila? Sorry if I messed up any names. I loved the first volume of No One Left to Fight. It's a very vibrant, colorful, action-packed, and energetic book. And it is perfect for fans of fighting games, and in particular, fans of things like Dragon Ball Z. It's got a lot of Dragon Ball Z influence into it, and it's got some of the most beautiful colors, some of the most wild characters, rambunctiousness, and lots of kinetic action. This is fantastic. It's basically, what if Vegeta and Goku got to the end of their lives and they've defeated all the bad guys? There's literally no one left to fight. What's that like? And this directly picks up from the end of Volume 1. If you didn't read Volume 1, you're like, let me sneak in here, you are going to be lost as hell. Trust me. You got to read Volume 1 to get into this one. And I highly encourage that you do, because that book is freaking awesome. Another awesome book is Mazebook from Jeff Lemire. Issue number 2 out this week. Issue number 1 was really good, but hella depressing. This one still has that somber yet bittersweet tone that I know and have come to appreciate from a lot of Jeff Lemire's work. Think books like Royal City, for instance, which was a fantastic one. But Mazebook, issue number 2, deepens the mystery. It's about this dude who lost his daughter a while ago. His life has spiraled since then. He's just stuck in his own rut, his own routine, his own mini maze of death, if you will. And then one day he gets a phone call in the middle of the night and he hears his daughter's voice, and she was obsessed with these maze books, and now he's becoming obsessed with the idea that she's stuck in a maze. This book is awesome. What exactly is happening? We don't really know yet. How much of what we're seeing is really happening is yet to be determined. But the emotional weight of this book is freaking amazing. And I love Jeff Lemire's artwork. He's got his own style. It's very melancholy, but at the same time, there is a tinge of hope. But it's a bittersweetness to it too, bruh. Like, if you're not in a good headspace, I wouldn't recommend that one. The Unbelievable Unteens, issue number 3. This one's all right. It kind of starts losing me just a little bit. It's a really cool, like, Black Hammer take on, say, things like Doom Patrol in Lemire's own kind of way. And the artwork by Tyler Crook is cool. But I found myself just kind of reading this one and kind of dropping out of the story and being like, wait a second, let me reread that. What's going on? It's kind of losing my interest. And I don't know, man. Like, a lot of the, like, Black Hammer Reborn is out this week, and I missed an issue because Diamond had shorted us, and so I looked at it, and I was like, I don't even know what's going on here. And to be honest with you, I don't know if I care so much about the Black Hammer stuff anymore, but at the same time, Black Hammer stuff is usually good, and this is a good book, but it's just, I don't know, it didn't excite me this week. I'll just say that. From Dynamite, we have James Bond, Himeros? This is Rodney Barnes from Philadelphia fame doing a James Bond story, and it was a good, solid debut issue of a new James Bond mission. Basically, there's this dude who's trying to kill this one dude, and he's got this assistant that he's trying to kill, so Bond's got to go and, like, protect this assistant, and then you get some action scenes. That's pretty much it, but I really appreciated it. I thought it was cool. Rodney Barnes kind of had a little bit of some clever dialogue there, handled the info dump in the beginning very easily, and Antonio Fuso on the artwork, big fan of his work, so I was excited to see him on there. He does some really great action scenes in there, so if you're a Bond fan, definitely worth checking out. It's not going to wow you. It's not the best thing on shelves, but it's pretty solid. Vampiverse, issue number 2. I really like this one. I felt a bit lost in the first issue. Basically, what's going on is this is like the movie The One, right? But with Vampirella throughout the multiverse, right? So there's this one supreme badass version of Vampirella named Bloodwing or something like that, and she is out trying to kill all the other Vampirellas. Okay, and then there's this other Vampirella that's going to these other worlds and, like, heralding her, you know, her arrival and trying to, like, warn people and things like that. But I really liked it. So you wind up with all these versions of Vampirella, but it's fun. I have a lot of fun with this book. It's not that it's not taking itself seriously. It is, but it's not trying to do anything more than what it sets out to do, which is just give us a nice, fun story with a bunch of versions of Vampirella. It's fun, it's action-packed, and it's got vampires. So I'm pretty solid. The artwork's pretty solid too. Vampiverse, issue number 2. Then Army of Darkness, 1979, issue number 2. This is that Tony Fleece Dogs cover. I really like this cover. I like this book. So this is by Rodney Barnes as well. And the basic premise is this. So I haven't really been keeping up with the Army of Darkness books at Dynamite, but apparently it seems like the Necronomicon just keeps going to a different place, and he has to just pop up in a different zone or a different world and get it. And now they're in 1979 in New York, basically in the movie The Warriors. So, like, imagine one of the gangs in The Warriors gets the Necronomicon and gets these magic badass powers, and Ash is now teaming up with some of the other gangs to, like, stop them. I really like the book. It's fun. It had a nice flow to it. The artwork is pretty solid. The lettering's not quite my favorite. There's something about that that's distracting to me with the artwork. But overall, I like this book, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. Then over at IDW, we got Star Trek The Mirror War, issue number 1. This continues the Mirror War saga of the Next Generation. That's the evil mirror universe where everything's reversed and everybody's super jacked and badass, right? So Picard wants to revitalize the Terran Empire, right? And this is like the third part of a few stories that they've done. So you spend a lot of time in this book kind of catching you up on the previous couple stories. And then it starts getting into the action. And once it got into the action, I really did like it. So it was kind of bogged down at first by just kind of explaining once again everything that's happened. But then it gets into it. Gavin Smith did the artwork, and I really did like the artwork. It was more kinetic than I'm used to from Star Trek books, and I really appreciated that. The likenesses were on point and had this little bit of a grit to it as well. Gavin Smith joined us on the channel. By the way, that was a great show. You should check it out. And if you're not familiar with his work, check out Dead Legends. Freaking amazing. If you like Enter the Dragon and Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, you gotta read Dead Legends. In fact, Dead Legends Volume 2 came out today. From Boombox, we have Mamo, issue number 4. I'm really liking this book. At first, I thought it would be a little too YA for me, and it is, but it's not at the same time. I'm really liking this book. It's about this young lady. She's a witch. Her grandmother was a witch. She passed away. She's trying to find all of her bones that are scattered all over the place. She got to bring the bones back because there's a curse on the town before it, but there's actually more of an ulterior motive from her grandmother and what she's trying to say about purpose and destiny and identity to this woman right here and her friend. And I really like this book. It's got a great whimsical flair to it. It hits all the drama very, very excellently, and it has this nice light flow, free-flowing style to it, and the artwork is just damn masterful. I love the book. It hits everything. This is definitely a book that I would recommend to like middle age and up. Like if you got like a preteen or a young teenager or something, definitely maybe you want to check that book out for them. Power Rangers issue number 12. So a book that I thought started hitting a lull has totally kicked it back up. We're about to hit to the Empirical War. We get to see the rise of the Empiricals in this issue, the betrayal of Lord Draken again, and just more and more stuff. I'm really digging this book. The way it's layered, it feels like old school superhero books, and I've said this before many times. I'll say it again. This is the best iteration of these characters and of the story and of this lore that has ever existed. Ryan Parrott's doing a hell of a job. His artists do a hell of a job. This book is kinetic. This book is fun. It's exciting, and it continuously surprises me. It really does. I really like it. Power Rangers number 12, super solid. From AWA, we have ETER. This is a one-shot comic with 2 different stories, basically about a hospital on Earth that's got a basement hospital where they treat aliens. So the first story kind of introduces that concept. Think like Men in Black meets ER, right? So the first one introduces us to that concept. It's all right. It's decent. It's got artwork by Javier Pulido, which was cool. And then the backup story was interesting and kind of fun as well. I don't know if there's plans to like expand out on this universe because it's a really cool concept that could really work, but you don't really get to get hooked in because there's just one-shot stories, albeit though they were pretty cool. And it's only $3.99. It's kind of a thick book. Second Coming, Only Begotten Son, issue number 6. This is the final issue of the second volume, but not the final volume because at the end they do tease the idea that they're coming back for a third. I really like this one. So this dude, can never, Sunman, right? Yeah, Sunman and Jesus, they're like buddies. Sunman's baby's born in this one. Jesus goes back to heaven to talk to his father. They have a really profound discussion. Mark Russell's the writer of this one, and I think that he has been able to craft a story that is so true to the heart of the message of Christ at times, right? And there's a moment, for instance, the Old Testament God, big G God here, he's kind of painted as kind of an a-hole, right? And in this one, he's not painted that way. Like he's just painted as a regular dude. He's telling the story of God and Jesus like you would tell the story of just a father and a son. And there's some moments in here that I found really freaking profound. I really like Second Coming. I think this book is something very interesting because it's a satirical work, but it's not, it may be poking fun at certain things, but it's not poking fun at the essence of spirituality, which I think it honors that. Blacksmith, number 4. This is also from Ahoy Comic. This is from Eric Palicki, friend of the show. Really like this book. It's about a private investigator. She happens to be a werewolf. Her partner is a genie, and she's been tasked to find these silver bullets that are allegedly cast from the silver that Judas got from betraying Christ, right? And you're introduced to this world. So it's like Supernatural and Buffy, but a little bit more like hard-boiled crime fiction, right? And it doesn't lean into like super like noir tropey type things. It has its own identity. It's got a really great flow. The artwork is great. It's Wendell Cavalcanti, and it's got this grit and rawness to it, but the story itself is just absolutely fun, and I'm into the characters. And once again, big Clash fan. Some Clash stuff right there. And then He Who Fights with Monsters, issue number 2. This is from Ablaze. This is an American translation of a European comic, and the biggest draw of it is that it's illustrated by Werther Dell'Edera, the artist of Something is Killing the Children. Now, it's not written by him, it's Francisco Artabani. It's kind of boring, to be honest with you. So it's like World War II set. It's in, I think it's in Prague or something like that. And there's this doctor, he's a Jewish doctor, and he's got this old guy, this patient of his, who's trying to convince him to go to the synagogue and find the mud and bring this golem back to life, right? And doesn't really believe it. So, like, it's got an element that's very interesting. In fact, the first half of this issue, I was reading it, I was like, what's going on? I don't like this at all. The last half of this issue, I really, really liked. And that was stuff where they were getting more into the supernatural golem type stuff. So, the book's kind of a mixed bag. There's something about it that's intriguing to me, but it's literally probably only 20% of it. So, I don't know. I really wouldn't recommend that one. Plus, the artwork is not quite what you're expecting if you're familiar with his work from Something's Killing the Children. Anyway, that's what I read. That's what I'm digging. That's what I thought. What are you reading? What are you digging? What do you think? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And join us over at popculturephilosophers.com for podcast blogs and a whole lot more. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading. Station.